Can you hear it?
Can you
Can
feel the
you
vibes
can
in the
you
air?
can you hear
Can
it?
you smell it?
That that sound you just heard is the collective greater Philadelphia area breathing a sigh of relief. Because today the Philadelphia Eagles did what everybody wanted them to do. They fired Kevin Patullo. Brother, what'd you throw on the grill?
We out here throwing the party down, man. We just hit the liquor store, got the Tron. We had the hot dogs. We had the I threw the steak on the grill today, boy. My man, I got this coworker. He went to Punta Cana a couple weeks ago. He say every time he go out of town, he bring back stuff for all the people he work with. Man, brought back a cigar. I've been waiting for the Eagles or the Buckeyes to do something nice, and all of them keep goddamn failing me. Like, what the hell? So the cigar just been sitting pretty. I lit that bitch. I lit it today. I lit it today. Like, we are celebrating. It is. I had a dream that one day, all Eagles fans,
Hey, bro, when I
Philadelphia and not Philadelphia.
when I saw when you posted to I have a dream speech, bro, I'm telling you, I went to dying laughing.
Like, boy, I wanted to post that bad. I was driving while I posted that. I'm like, man, this the feeling is in the air. We gotta get this. Like, no disrespect to Kevin Patullo. I mean, as you guys know, like, I know
It's
y'all
just
probably
jokes. It's
listening.
just
Like,
jokes, man.
I mean, of course, it's just jokes, but as you guys, y'all probably listened all year long, and I've been one of Kevin's biggest supporters, biggest riders. I just think
Hey,
he felt
yo, pause.
circumstance.
That's
Yeah, that was
crazy.
crazy. That was crazy. That was horrific. But see, this off-season ball, dude, it's ridiculous. But I've been one of Kevin's biggest supporters for the long haul of the season. I truthfully think he got caught up in the same win that Brian Johnson got caught up in, where it's you have a play caller like Nick Sirianni isn't wrong for wanting to build a coaching tree, for one to leave a legacy behind. Now, the problem is that's not your lane right now. Will it be one day? We'll figure it out. Is it now? No. Right now, you're, as Pierre likes to call him, the vibes coordinator.
Yeah, I think the overall issue with Sirianni when it comes to the whole CEO, the head coach, and the type of coach that he is, like we've talked about it, like him, being adaptable, that's his superpower. But it seems like when it comes to his overall like offensive philosophy or the schematics of the offense, that's where he becomes very stubborn. And it's like, no, we're gonna run my offense. We're gonna run what I want to run.
I
And
mean,
as a coach, like we talk about it all the time, right? Like the chief job among all for head coaches in football is to put your players in the best positions to succeed. And can we really say that they did that this year?
you can't really say that they did that this year. And I mean, I'll touch on more of all this in some kind of piece later on. But you listen to what Kevin Patullo said, or at least words from Richard Sherman, from the words of Ryan Fitzpatrick. He say, she say, telephone game. But from all of them, what apparently came from Kevin Patullo is you guys don't even understand. Y'all are so hard on him and don't even understand the inner workings of the offense.
I
And I
don't I
mean,
don't I
I
don't want
get
to
him.
hear
I
that,
get him.
bro.
I get
I
him. You
don't want to
can't.
hear that. I
All
don't want
right.
to hear that. You
For
had
all the
you
popping
had
bottles
18
and
you had but listen, you had 18, 19 weeks to get this figured out. I don't
yes,
want to
but
hear
it's hard
that.
to do that. I mean, I don't. I would. It'd be nice if one of our lovely producers could gather all the times where I've talked during the season about I feel like he's being handicapped. He has a job to do, but he also has pure instructions. Basically from Nick Sirianni, where I've insinuated I have no proof. I mean, this is probably the closest thing to proof that I've gotten, but I have no proof. This is just me insinuating that 2024 or 2025 changed them, y'all. You saw the success they had with Saquon Barkley, and not even just that, but playing a specific brand of a football. Hell, not just the coach, but even the owner. You heard Jeffrey Lurie come out and speak, a guy that has been famous for saying, "Hey, I want a prolific passing offense." And he talked about how running the ball and ball control and all that cool stuff. It ain't that bad. Maybe we should do this kind of stuff. And like it literally changed everybody. So now you got a first year play caller in Kevin Patullo who's trying to learn his own right in his own way as a play caller to begin with, trying to follow directions, I should say in air quotes, because I don't have any confirmation, but directions from the head coach of, look, I want you to learn how to be a good play caller and get the feel of a game, but I also want you to follow these directions. If we get a lead, sit on the ball, run the ball, let our defense take care of it. And I was actually just about to say something about this when you talked about the art of the CEO head coach, where I mean, let's use a guy like D'Amico Ryans, for example. I'm sure when he went into his interviews or even at the end of every season when he goes to hire an offensive or defensive coordinator, his whole thing is, look, I'm the defense guy. You the offense guy. So you got to figure all that out. But for me, I'm going to play good defense. I'm going to manage ball control. I'm going to run the ball. Like, they basically had set the tone for what he wants his team to be in terms of the CEO head coach. And I feel like Sirianni continues to try to quote unquote set the tone, but his idea of setting the tone really he set his boy up. He set his
Yeah.
he set his guy behind the eight ball, because you can't grow like you saw. We continue to talk about the flashes that we seen all year, and there were flashes. I'm not gonna lie to you and act like he was just horrible. He showed flashes,
I
but
mean, they had the
it was
number one red
always
zone offense in the league.
exactly. And we could joke, hey, that's Scott Loeffler, blah blah blah, but he's the play caller, so you guys can't take anything away from him for that. But then you have the situations in the second half of games, especially when your team has a lead, or just in general when your team has the lead, where you just take the proverbial air out of the football. And it's like, what are you doing? You're just stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I mean, ultimately, it comes down to Sirianni, because I mean, we've seen Shane Steichen, Kellen Moore, a veteran play caller, ain't gonna let him boss them around, and he's not gonna try to boss him around, because it's like the Lil Durk and Young Thug meme where he's sitting watching them at the computer. That'd be Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni's Lil Durk at that point, because you the play caller. You've been here. I'm trying to figure out what you're doing and learn from it. But when it's somebody that he don't trust, as we've seen from Brian Johnson, and I'm not gonna say don't trust, because he's tried to give every avenue to trust KP this year, but you can't give somebody specific instructions how to run the offense, and then basically you can't expect somebody to run their offense to success but then give them specific instructions for how to do it, because they trying to find themselves, especially as a first year play caller. And I joked before this, so there's a lot of teams that wouldn't have did this, but then you look over in Tampa Bay, where I mean I make the same jokes about it. Tampa Bay defense is horrible. Tampa Bay defense sucked this year. There was no joke about it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I mean, they show flashes, just like you can say about the Eagles offense. But the Buccaneers defense wasn't good. And you got a head coach that's a defensive head coach and a defensive coordinator where, I mean, does he call plays? Probably not. It ultimately falls back on the defense, but y'all fired the offensive coordinator because they couldn't move the ball, or it ultimately failed in the end. And in this league, people become scapegoats
Yep.
for situations that they ultimately don't belong scapegoats in. And at the end of the
And
day, Kevin was a scapegoat.
yeah, and everything you just outlined. That's why we sit here where we are with Kevin Patullo fire, right? Like it was needed. Somebody had to be the face for this season, right? And me and you were talking before we got on, and you mentioned Murphy's Law, and it was kind of a situation during this season for the offense where it's like what could go wrong did go wrong,
Everything,
right?
everything.
And all season there were issues, right? Like whether you want to talk about the penalties, whether you want to talk about second half, the passing game, the inconsistency there, the route concepts, all of these different things. And those same issues, persisted into the playoffs as to why they lost to the 49ers on Sunday, right? And there was never a fix, right? Like after the game, they asked Sirianni, why were you never able to get this corrected? His
Oh my
response,
gosh.
verbatim, I don't know.
Mm.
So it's like, if I'm Jeff Lurie, first of all, if I'm Jeff Lurie and I'm talking to Sirianni, my question to him is, well, if you don't know, why am I paying you?
So I
Like,
mean, all right. So I don't want to say off the record because clearly we're recording, but I think that's one of those off the record kind of conversations
yeah,
where, again, like I've said all season long, and like I just said a second ago, he put that man between a rock and a hard place, bro, and he know it. He
yeah,
know it. Ownership know it, because I like to think ownership and the general manager, it changed all of them last year. All of them have a fault into how this season played out, which is why they didn't make a change. I like to think there are two specific situations that stood out to me as to why they didn't make a change this year. One would be in the whole,
Optics.
of course, optics, but one being the whole of course, everything that happened in, well, I guess you could say three, but I won't get into the whole first one. The whole thing that happened on the defensive side of the ball with Matt Patricia and Sean Desai, we all know. Secondly, being them promoting Mike Groh from offensive coordinator to from wide receivers coach to offensive coordinator, and seeing how bad that went, and then them firing him, which is why I think we have the specific wordings that we do. Because Nick was gonna ride for his guy, but
Yeah.
y'all knew, like I just said a second ago, ownership, general manager, all of y'all are just as responsible. Y'all knew y'all set him up this year, and y'all just prayed that it went well based on everything that y'all had. He had just played that he had the perfect setting around him to cover up for his
But
flaws and let him learn on the fly. But everybody
but my
knew.
but my rebuttal to that is, why would y'all put him in this situation? Why would you hire a first time play caller as a defending Super Bowl championship organization?
I mean, let's be real, Pierre. What were they supposed to do? We talked about them in 2022 losing both of their coordinators and being behind the eight ball because they lost the Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl this time. We're looking at the whole. We sitting there rushing him to fire Kevin Patullo because we look at all these people getting interviews. It's the divisional round of the playoffs. What were they legitimately supposed to do? They almost had to promote from within. I mean, they could have tried to find something different, but you know how they feel about that late in the process. And I mean, that's part of being a champion. You behind the eight ball from everybody else. But they kind of had to do that. Again, I think it was one of those hope and pray things, which I feels like the only person that's seen through the BS was Jalen Hurts, where it's like, he ain't never did this before, y'all. What are we
Jalen
doing?
Jalen been on it from the jump, bro. They asked him. He said, "Well, it's a new role for Kevin. He's never done this before."
Like,
At that point, bro, we should have known. Hey, this ain't about to go well, man.
they, and I mean, it's funny to joke about it. Like, well, yeah, let it play out. Hell, I was a let it play out kind of guy. It it was bound. We were bound to end up in this position. And it kind of goes to show you how hard it is to repeat.
Yeah.
It is absolutely hard because you starting the next season already behind the eight ball. You talking about going back to rookie camp and OTAs and stuff in like 3-4 weeks. Like, I just finished playing football. What do you mean? Like, it's so much behind all that stuff where it's so hard to repeat. But just in general, they were never really in a position to succeed, and they tried to cover up all the flaws. The problem with covering up all the flaws is, again, it ultimately falls back on the head coach. Where if you're going to promote one of your guys, you're going to trust in one of your guys,
Trust him
gotta have him.
fully.
You gotta have his back, right?
Yeah.
You gotta let him grow, and you can, again, like I talked about with D'Amico Ryans, having an idea, the game plan, but you can't send him out there and basically neuter him for second half of games. And this is not me confirming that that's what was going on again, but you can't neuter him for second half of games because you got a belief of how a team, like, we got a great defense. Just take time off the clock, try to
Take care of the
extend
ball.
drive, yeah,
Yeah.
like all it. You got to keep playing your game, bro. You got to keep playing your game. And it was so easy to defend you when it was always working. And to be honest, it still works when you look at the numbers compared to what's good and bad. Nick Sirianni's right. But then you look at a situation like Sunday where y'all won the turnover battle. I took care of the ball. You won time of possession, and you lost because
You took your foot off the
your
gas,
your offense couldn't do anything in the second half of a football game. That
brother.
it
Brother,
comes back to
brother.
you, man.
I showed you before we got on stream. I broke my phone case over this game. Like, I don't know if y'all can see it. There, like, all of these openings on the side, that's for me slamming my phone down because I watched Kevin Patullo call a QB draw on 3rd and 13.
Just it's immaculate, the difference between the first half of games and the second half of games between this football team, man. Like, I tried to refrain from looking at it positively because I knew there was a possibility we could end up in this position. But I'm not gonna lie, he was kind of cooking on that first draft, man. He
Yeah,
was kind of cooking.
but that's how you know, like it's somewhere in there. Like it's somewhere in there. Like I don't think any of us, as much as like you said, we joke about it and laugh about it. I don't think anyone with somewhat of a football mind, like someone who knows the game of football. I don't think they think Kevin is just extremely incompetent. Like he struggled his first year, like it wasn't good and everything like that. Like the offense suffered, but I don't think the man is like just completely like inept when it comes to the game of football. It's clearly
And
he's
I'm
something is
glad you
clearly
said
there.
it. I'm glad you said it like that because that's the epitome of this football team. Again, I hate this. I don't want to turn this into like just piling on the head coach, man, because I'm a Nick Sirianni guy. But
I
all
mean,
this
it's the
turns,
truth.
it comes
It's the
back to
truth.
Nick, man.
Yes,
Like
it's
all
the
I can think
truth.
about hearing you say that, and again, another conversation Chevron and that has had, where, and I mean, he's talking about being quote unquote more involved, and I mean, I'm sure he has been, but like people love to sit here and say Nick Sirianni is just this incompetent offensive man and can't do it and blah blah blah. And all of us are grading him off a scale from 5, 6 years ago, where he called plays for the first time for like 8 games, and he's part of the problem because just like Kevin Patullo has been here since day one, you've been here. You've seen Shane Steichen, you've seen Kellen Moore, you've seen Brian Johnson, you've seen everybody. This is supposed to be quote unquote your offense. Just because you didn't understand the workings of how to call plays initially, don't mean you run away from the opportunity the entire time. You
And
got to be
that's
willing to
it.
try at some point, man.
Exactly, and that's my thing. Like during the season, when the issues kept piling and kept piling and kept piling, game after game, why didn't you step in?
I mean, I told y'all why he didn't step in because he was in a rock and a hard place. It's either you step in and you make yourself look bad if it looks good when you step in because you hired this offensive coordinator, or you let him thug it and try to figure it out and help him from the back. And once you stop helping, it don't work out, and you still look bad because you
So,
hired this
so in other
offensive
words,
coordinator.
so in other words, what you're saying is Nick slimed his man's out because he didn't want to look bad. That's what you're saying.
I'm not gonna say he slammed him out. Like I said a couple weeks ago, I do believe there was a circumstance where when we talked about Nick Sirianni, quote unquote, being more involved, and then we got so pissed off about him repeating that same sentiment after I don't remember which loss it was, but he was like, maybe I just need to be more involved. Like, yeah, duh, we went through that 3 weeks ago when you said it the first time, buddy, and when you became more involved and we looked good, which is where the whole idea of maybe you should just give it a shot came from. But you were more involved and we look good. And then what I like to believe happened because again, you hired him. This is your guy. You don't want to babysit him the whole way through because it's gonna look bad once you get to the end of the year press. I mean, not press conference, but end of the year meetings with Jeffrey and Howie, and it's like, so why the hell was he here? If you had to hold his hand the whole way through, like you got to give your man some room to grow. And he tried, and Nick kept failing, mostly because you gave him specific orders that he had to follow about being conservative, but it failed. So again, he tried his best to help him on the way through, but from the start, it wasn't going to go well.
Yeah,
It wasn't going to go
and
well.
and just to put a bow on it before we kind of look forward, just some statistics. The Eagles finished 24th in success rate,
Mm,
19th in EPA per drive.
mm.
During the last 20 years, the only other times they finished with the worst offense statistically were 2012 when Andy Reid was fired, 2015 when Chip Kelly was fired, 2020 Doug Peterson was fired, and this year. And they weren't going to fire Doug. So, like we said, the next guy in the line, the guy who had to fall on the sword, was Kevin Patullo. And it's a tough part of the business, but that's kind of it comes with the territory.
Oh no, I
So
think they were really going to fire Nick. I think they truly
this
went to
year,
that meeting. Yeah,
I don't think so.
I think they truly went into that meeting with
I
that.
don't think
Let
so.
me not say they were truly going to fire him. I think they went into that meeting because, like you said, they weren't going to fire Doug,
You
and
think
then
they
they
went
went. To, they was in
you
that
think they
meeting
went
for
in the meeting
5 hours.
wait you think they went in the meeting on Monday or Tuesday Jeff Lurie put a picture of Doug Peterson on the table, slid it over to Nick, and just crossed his arms. And Nick was like, all right, he's gone.
As something close. I don't think it was Doug Peterson. I think they walked in there. He slid a picture of Captain Patullo over and crossed his arms, and basically said, "It's either you or him. How do you want to go about it?" And I think smooth talking Nick. He's a smooth talker. He a smooth operator, man. Same guy that bring his kids to a press conference after they play absolutely horrible. Like, they're not gonna talk bad about me with the kids right here, right? But just a smooth operator. That's my dude, though. But I think he went in there and he understood that. Look, he's not my plan for offensive coordinator. We're gonna find something different. And they was like, I know. We were going to make you find something different. We're just trying to figure out if we had to fire you to get that different. And he's like, no. He's not going to be my offensive coordinator. But I do think we should keep him, which is why the wording changed. Like, initially on the Eagles website, they said Eagles part ways with Kevin Patullo, and then it changed with Eagles make offensive changes. So I do think they're basically going to present to him the opportunity to be back. Probably, as you mentioned in the group chat, with a pay raise, assistant head coach or something.
So in other words, like I said a couple minutes ago, what you're saying is Nick Sirianni slimed his man's out.
I mean, he ain't slam him out. He just tried to
Yes,
get
he
him in a good
did.
position.
Yes,
and he
he
made sure he
did.
had a job afterwards. Slamming him out is basically saying, yeah, he can go. We'll be all right. I'll fall in line. I don't think it was a complete I'll fall in line. And between the whole ownership knew from the start, like I said, that they knew the position they was putting that man in. And the whole before he took this job, he was supposed to be the good cop, bad cop to Nick. Every time Nick got too high, he was the one to bring him down. Every time he got too low, he was the one to bring him up. Like, he's supposed to be what we call Nick the vibes coordinator. He's the initial vibes coordinator. So maybe they move him back into his regular role, especially because there's no pass game coordinator now. Because I believe that job is taken.
Parks Frazier.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
shout out to Cozy Bryant in the comments. I'm gonna read his comment. Took a week to fire Johnson, and Patullo fired 2 days later. They for sure already have someone else in mind. I would not doubt it. But
I mean, of course, if you listen to the pod, Cozy, shout out, brother. But if you listen to the pod, you know Quell like to play devil's advocate. Play devil's advocate. I'm not going to say they have someone specific in mind. I just think that they see the market, and
I know I have someone in mind.
Yeah, we see my guy's been on the whole campaign on
I'm
Twitter.
pushing the agenda hard.
I mean, I started my campaign months ago, and your campaign is way beyond mine. If we was in what they call primaries, I'd be the loser. All right. Oh yeah. See, there we go. That's been my thought. That was my thought from the start. Of course, especially given the relationship that he has with everyone in the building, from Nick to Jalen to Saquon to Smitty.
For the audio listeners, the comment is they already had Brian Daboll in mind.
Right, that was horrible podcasting for me. I'm sorry, but dude, I can see the relationship already.
But we're gonna get into the offensive coordinator talk in a bit. But just to push the conversation forward a bit, if you're Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman, how do you fix this offense? Like, what's the way forward? Like, because as it is with the whole Sirianni philosophy of, the conservative approach and, not turning the ball over and everything like that, like, sure, like you said, the record, it's not wrong, but it clearly isn't a sustainable model, right? Like, they just lost a playoff game because of it. And like, it's clearly not as simple as firing Kevin and overnight things are going to be fixed.
Shout out to friend of the pod. I don't mean to interrupt you, but shout out to friend of the pod, Will Rucker, pushing the campaign for you, man. Just so many top mocking drums on the timeline. So many top mocking.
I'm not gonna lie. Will was pushing the Cliff Kingsbury noise a couple days ago, and I dropped the top monking in his spirit, and you see what happened. Now.
Hey, man is pushing the campaign hard.
But yeah, like I said, because firing Kevin, or just because Kevin himself, he isn't and wasn't the only issue. Like we just outlined a couple of minutes ago, like Nick's philosophy, overall, like I said, it's not sustainable on a year-to-year scale because if you keep hiring, young OCs and things of that nature, they're gonna get hired elsewhere. So you're gonna be right back at square one. And then, as a result of all that turnover, Jalen's development suffers. So essentially, like, what's the fix if you're Jeffrey Lurie?
If you're Jeffrey Lurie, you kind of have to reevaluate everything. Like this, the best part about this, like I talked about on Twitter, and I mean, we've talked about this on the podcast for years, to be honest. So it ain't just me mentioning this today on Twitter. This team has a tendency of not just correcting. They don't just correct, they overcorrect. It don't matter if it's the owner, if it's the general
I
manager,
mean,
if it's the
I
head
mean
coach.
they
The head
lost
coach
us.
fits right into the
Yeah,
whole tendency.
they lost
Like
the Super Bowl in 2022 because of a turnover, and Nick Sirianni was like, "Oh yeah, we not turning the ball over no more." That's the
like
focus.
the tendency to overcorrect is there. And that's what the whole thing of me mentioning the Mike Grove thing early on in the pod, where they was like, well, we seen how that happened. We don't want to make two positions worse. So let's just try to make one worse and one better and find a spot for him, things of that nature. I think for Jeffrey Lurie, for all of them, they have to take a proverbial step back and look in the mirror. From Sirianni taking that approach that we've been talking about for the last 10 minutes, look in the mirror and again say, how can I refine this? Because it's not broken, but how can I make perfect this? Because that you keep trying to build a coaching staff, and this is your legacy. This belief is your legacy. You are literally changing football. You look at how the Buffalo Bills and some of these teams play football this year, they stole it from you, son. This is your legacy. You just need to capitalize on that and stop being such a, BH, what they like to say in town. Then you look at the general manager. I mean, it happens to him every other year. He has a great year, and then he has one of those bring you back to the humility years. Like, oh, this year wasn't as good. I mean, it wasn't bad, but I got to get back to my regular ways of how to be better. And then, of course, ownership. You got to look in the mirror of when you look at Jeffrey Lurie. Honestly, I like to think Nick Sirianni, when it's all said and done, will be the one that changes him. And you'd have thought it was Andy Reid, but Andy Reid kind of gave him the blueprint of what he thought was correct. But Nick Sirianni's be the one that changes him because his whole thing has always been, I don't mind taking a swing at these young coaches, all of these guys, with the exception of Chip Kelly. That was the only difference. Everybody he's hired has never called plays. They're new to this, and he kind of just says, "I trust you to kind of learn on the fly because of the leader you are, the person you are." And he allows them a chance to grow. But we've seen a multitude of times that while you give your head coach that opportunity, you don't give your offensive coordinators that opportunity, especially under this head coach, where you learn that maybe leadership, veteranship is probably, I don't want to
But
say the way to go, but he needs veteran leadership around him. And it's okay. Like, despite him being a fifth, 6 year head coach, Nick Sirianni's still a young coach. He ain't never had a job before this, y'all. Like, or a head coaching job. Like, he's still trying to figure out the blueprint of this.
yeah, I think it's different in this specific situation because Nick doesn't call plays, right? Like that's why he's so lurid. That's why he's so, I guess, willing to, make changes
Bro.
at offensive coordinator. That's why he's so willing to not give them that same leash that he affords,
But I
other
don't
head
want to
coaches.
say, I mean, I like to think that you're right, but I've said this for a couple years now. And like I said at the start of the pod, I like to think that Kevin fell victim to the same thing that Brian fell victim to, where I think Brian deserves another opportunity, just like Kevin deserves another opportunity. The issue is, hell, y'all, neither one of them probably should have even been fired. But the issue is the team that you are the play caller for is in a specific window of trying to win as many championships as they
Hmm.
can in this time frame. And we ain't got time for you as a play caller to figure out who you are or to learn, which is probably why they shouldn't hire either one of them in the first place. But again,
Hmm.
stuck between a rock and a hard place after where you finish your season off at. So just get what you can. But they they haven't really been afforded the proper opportunity to grow as play callers. And I mean, this job ain't really that job.
Yeah, and like you just said with Jeff Lurie, right? Like, we're Eagles fans. We know Jeff Lurie is probably one of, if not the most plugged in owner, well, probably besides Jerry Jones, but one of the most plugged in owners, in the sport, right? Like, he's at practice, he talks to the players. He used to meet, I don't know if he still meets with
Hey
Sirianni on a
man,
weekly
don't
basis, but
what you
like
call it on his line now? She climbing up.
the Colts owner, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I forget her name, but yeah. But yeah, like you said, like Jeff, he's shown himself to be, a very patient man. Like he doesn't, make hasty decisions, right? But when things are bad, he's not afraid to rip off the band-aid as he did today. But I also think he's cognizant, of the fact that this offense is the most expensive unit in the league, and
Yeah.
the fact that this team is in a Super Bowl window, right? And it's like I think I tweeted it, but like who they hire as the OC is gonna tell you a lot about what
So
Jeff's
let's get
vision
into
is
that.
for the next phase of Eagles football for sure.
Let's get into that because you mentioned two people specifically in that tweet, and I want to talk about both of
Well,
those
I think we can keep it kind of we can move into the coordinators, but I want to keep it Jeffrey
vague.
and I want to keep it
Oh,
Jeff
okay,
and the
okay,
whole
okay.
Eagles organization centric for
Centric.
right
I
now.
get you. I get you. I
Yeah.
get you.
So like like the OC hiring process. If you're Jeff Lurie, how do you weigh giving Jalen what he wants? And he talked earlier this week about finding a proverbial home base, that being like the overall identity, or I guess collective identity for the entire offense. How do you weigh giving Jalen what he wants with, versus Nick as a head coach and what he brings to the table? Like essentially, with Nick and his offensive philosophy or kind of lack thereof, and how it's kind of shown, like I said a couple minutes ago, to not really translate year to year because there's a lot of turnover at the coordinator position. Um, how do you kind of weigh those two things?
So I guess this answer will probably be the pushback to your initial campaign. How you think it? And I mean, I don't want to say you because I agree as well. I've been saying this. They need an adult in the room, for lack of a better term. How you think it'll be Monken? I think it should be Dable, basically a veteran play caller. I think this conversation specifically pushes back to that nature because in order to like when you think back to the whole thing of Kellen Moore, that's what comes into mind here. Kellen Moore is probably the only coordinator that they've had hired that Nick Sirianni essentially said, "I'm gonna take a step back." Now he didn't take a complete step back because that's what Kevin Patullo's job was supposed to be the bridge between Sirianni and what Moore wanted to do. But that was the first time he essentially said, "I'm open to letting somebody else's thought process into my range." And I think in order for that to work, you need to find somebody young. Because
But
I think
my thing
all
with that
these older
is,
guys, they're not going to do anything but conform. They're just going to figure out a. And I mean, I said this last week on the pod. That's what I think they need. I don't think they need somebody to come in and reinvent the wheel. I just
I
think they
think,
need somebody to come in that can sequence plays, that can tie together what this offense truly wants to be. Because they don't know how to do it.
but my thing with that is, if they go younger and it's for all the reasons that you just said, what's the point of keeping Sirianni around?
So for what you
Why
just
not just
said,
hire someone who's younger who can do all of those things that you just said, and like what Sirianni gives you, they probably can do that too. Like, what's the point of having him around? It's uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable conversation.
it's an uncomfortable conversation, and I guess how I always have seen it in a perfect world, if you're the Eagles, I don't know if they've kind of shifted their ideology by this point, but in a perfect world, if you're the Eagles, you hire some of these younger minds, these brighter minds, and you persuade Nick Sirianni to just go into this with an open idea. Like, look, we ain't trying to take your job. You're gonna be the head coach. This your offense. He's just gonna bring in something young and fresh that you haven't seen before. So if you can add elements to your offense that weren't there before to continue to make it better, Why wouldn't you want to do that? And I think their whole thing is trying to continue to build him up to well, their whole thing was try to build him up to ultimately be a play caller kind of guy. That's why you put him together with the guys that you put him together with, starting with Shane Steichen. I mean, his whole thing was I trust Shane. If I could have anybody call, if I could have my life on the line and somebody had to call plays for me, it was going to be Shane Steichen. Okay, well then look and pay attention to how Shane went about sequencing plays. Looked like he didn't. I don't want to say he didn't, but wasn't as successful trying to follow that path. Well, Kellen's whole thing, just like you, I don't have a real plan on offense. I do whatever my team is good at. Kellen came in and said, well, we run the ball. That's our first and foremost thing. We can run the ball really well, and we can try to add things off that. And I do think that he tried to add little things off that. Like you sit there and you see Kevin Patullo run the tight end jet sweep for the Dallas Goddard touchdown. That's a Kellen Moore play. He ran that last year in the playoffs. They try to learn and add things. It's just ultimately you need to. That's why I said Nick needs to look in the mirror, just like all the rest of them need to look in the mirror. They keep trying to give you avenues to improve yourself, and you keep trying to look at it as, yeah, but I want my offense to be the forefront of everything. Your offense is the forefront of everything, brother. You just need to improve the offense, clearly.
But my thing, and it keeps coming back to this for me. What's the plus with him being the head coach if you're just gonna keep having to hire new OCs who
Because
has to
he brings
reinvigorate?
a whole lot more to this team than just being a head coach, which
You
is,
don't
I
think you
think,
don't think any of the younger OCs that they may hire could do the same thing?
I don't
Like,
know.
is it that rare what Nick brings as a head coach to where you can't find that in anybody else?
I'm not saying you can't find it in anybody else, but how, at least when me and Shavin talk about this, and I'm not sure if I said this to you guys yet, but if I had to give, and I mean, based on by namesake, it's gonna sound real stark. Like, how the hell are you gonna compare him to that? But if you ask me who Nick Sirianni is, Nick Sirianni's Phil Jackson. Nick Sirianni, your job is to manage these egos, to get the best out of these players, to figure out what makes them tick, to get that to tick. And sometimes it takes a little bit of arguing. Like, sucks that we had to see him and AJ argue on national TV. But Mike will tell you how many times he came into practice, or Kobe, and they came in on their own BS. And Phil was like, you got to go home, bro. Like, I can't allow you to do this today. Just because I'm on your line, like any regular player, don't make you any worse. Like, it don't make our relationship any worse. I'm just trying to be a coach. And his whole thing, his ability to get these guys love him. They love the whole coaching staff. They may not agree with how he goes about wanting to play the brand of football, but how he is as a head coach, his thought processes, how he gets the let's be competitive and all that other cool stuff that it comes with. They love that. I think he really gets the juices flowing. I just think truly, like I've said for years, Jalen and him just don't see eye to eye from a football
Yep.
standpoint.
Mhm.
I think
And that's
Jalen wants
why
something else and Nick wants something else.
exactly, and that's why I posed the question: if you're Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman, essentially, what's the delta between Jalen as a quarterback and what he can be versus what Nick gives you as a head coach, right? Like, is it a situation where Lurie and Roseman feel like, well, how we can put another roster together that's this talented and find another Sirianni, someone who's more equipped or better
Can
equipped
you really?
schematically?
Can you really? And that's the thing about it. Like, the thing about Sirianni that makes him special it's the thing that most people hate about him. It's how he carries himself. It's this attitude. Like, all I think about having this conversation is hearing Lane Johnson say, I'd rather win one Super Bowl having fun for the Eagles than win 5 Super Bowls playing in a prison for the Patriots. And if you guys took the Jalen Hurts way, you would be playing for a prison. That is all he knows. That is the Nick Saban way. Nick Saban worked with Bill Belichick, which like all of it all accumulatively ties together. That he want nothing but success to the end. It don't matter how we win, we just want to win. And that ain't fun. I mean, hell,
So,
you
so
listen
if
to the players talk about it. That ain't that. It ain't. It's kind of why we had the conversation earlier in the year about Jalen playing the middle, because Jalen truly couldn't figure out. Like, I mean, Nick is not wrong, Like, this is all I grew up with. The goal is to win the football game. And he still feels like the ultimate goal is to win the football game.
But it's just
I
how
just
they
think
win.
exactly. And I think that's what the offensive coordinator needs to be, the bridge between how they win.
But that's where who they hire is going to tell you which side of the spectrum Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman lean. Like I said, do you think Howie can put another roster as talented as this is with Jalen as the quarterback? That can win a Super Bowl just with a different head coach, or do you think the quarterback is expendable? Do you want to look somewhere else? Do you want to,
But
not
ultimately, I think, like I said, for during the course of the pod, I think Nick Sirianni makes things very interesting because his resume speaks for itself, and that's what makes. Like, I think with the conversation, this specific conversation will always come down to, because they'll never be able to pick between the quarterback and the coach without the kudos of the offense. I mean, the general manager. And all this conversation will ever come down to is Howie Roseman being able to say, I'm Nick Sirianni, you're in this position because of me. And
mm-hmm,
I'm not sure if Howie would ever say that, but the moves that they make around
it'll
him
tell
would
you.
say it. Exactly. And I mean, all I think I brought that up because Howie has built two different Super Bowl teams with two
Mm-hmm.
different head coaches over the last what's that, 8 to 10 years.
Yeah,
And
really the last 7 years
they
because they won in 2018. Yeah,
they
7 years.
right. And the knock, not the knock, but the big push for the other side is the entire reason that they drafted Jalen Hurts is because they sat there and said that they missed on Russell Wilson. And not only did they feel like that they got a chance to redeem themselves, he bought them a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
He was the Super Bowl MVP. Like,
Yep.
he essentially made them right about, if we would have got it right the first time, we'd be ahead of the 8 ball, but we got it right this time. You can't move off Jalen Hurts.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that Jalen Hurts is more valuable than Nick Sirianni or vice versa, but until we have a
I mean,
moment where the general manager steps in and says, "This is what we really got to do," I think we're gonna ride this same. And I mean, it's okay because I truly think these two were meant to be together in terms of Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. They are two opposite sides of the spectrum, but I think that's what makes them so good.
I think it's a thing where we don't have to answer that question. The moves they make are going to tell us which side of the spectrum they lean towards.
I mean, will they really?
Yes. Now we can get into the tweet. If it's like I said, if it's a younger offensive coordinator, someone who is from the McVay tree or something like that, to me that is signaling, okay, this is we're moving towards not necessarily Nick being let go, but like we're preparing for that if it comes to it. If it's someone
So,
older, it's on the other end of the spectrum.
so I guess my entire pushback, for two reasons would be: one, the initial name you used was what's the guy from the Rams name? Shearhouse. Yeah,
Shieldhouse.
yeah, Shearhouse. The initial name you used was Shearhouse in the tweet. Well, Shearhouse got his start
I
from
mean, it
Matt
doesn't have
Campbell.
to be limited to him. You could
Yeah,
go
yeah, 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 yeah. I get what you're saying,
yeah.
but I'm just using this as an example. If they bring in a guy like Shearhouse, I mean, ultimately, what you're saying in the black and white lane mix terms is right, but I do think we have to truly pay attention to who they bring in, because I don't
Yeah.
think if they go young or old is the assessment of anything. Because, like I was just about to say about Shearhouse came up under Matt Campbell, who is good friends, played college ball with Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni has the inner scope on him. I believe the team has already interviewed him, in
Hmm.
fact, already. So they
They
got the
did.
inner scope on him. So if they bring him in, it's just nothing but extra points for. It's just finding a Kevin Patullo replacement. Kevin Patullo is the pass game coordinator who turned offensive coordinator. pass game hasn't been good in 2 years. You just need somebody to turn around the passing game. So I don't think bringing in a guy like Shearhouse kind of says, well, Nick, you're on your last legs, especially because this was something that everybody was saying last year about Kellen Moore. Where if they bring in a guy like Kellen Moore, it kind of signifies to me that Nick Sirianni might be on his last legs and they'll hire Kellen over him. I I just think that
I
they
think
want
it's
somebody to
it's
help him be better.
it's more so what I'm saying is if it's someone with their own offensive identity, like someone who, like a older, like a Todd Monken, like that's just them removing his hand totally from the offense. And then, like I said, it becomes a conversation of, well, why is he the coach? If you have to take all,
But that's
responsibility from him,
so. And I mean, I don't want to get too much into it because, like I said, I really want to give you guys a piece about this whole conversation. But just a little draw into it. Historically speaking, when you look at the CEO head coach, that is what they do. When you look at CEO head coaches, how many of them truly tried, like Nick Sirianni, to come up with their own coaching staff or coaching tree? All of them go hire veteran coordinators that know more about them than the other side of the ball, or not even just the other side of the ball, this side of the ball, because all of them got to start somewhere. Know more about them, about play calling and all this stuff, kind of to help them grow. Nick Sirianni just seemingly tries to avoid doing this for some reason. And I think we finally gotten to a point where they're like, look, bro, if you're gonna make this CEO thing work, you need to hire some guys around you that's gonna make life easy on you.
and that's why the framing of it was they're looking for someone who's a proven offensive mind.
Exactly. Which is why I don't think, like, I truly think what I think my argument from '03 or not '03, '23, it feels like '03 by this point. But my argument from 23 isn't quite the same, but it's quite kind of similar. Where his resume speaks for itself. You can't fire him. You can't fire him. I mean, I do think they had a little more leeway to fire him this year than they did then because they have the Howie Roseman card now that they couldn't pull back then. I mean, you could have theoretically, but we didn't really have enough information to say that this is Nick Sirianni doing this is Howie Roseman doing this is now we essentially see, well, it essentially feels like, because I don't want to see, because I do think what Nick does is important, but we essentially feel like you can put you and me back there. I don't want to say that because I mean we see the teams fail with the coaching staff they got, but you can put almost anybody back there if they do the job right. The team he's built will have you in a good position. So
Mhm.
it just comes down to if Howie does Howie flex his muscle a little bit. If not, you kind of gotta. If it kind of feels like they respect what they have going on, they respect what Nick Sirianni has built, whether it's with, which I mean, I get. Wow, God damn it, this team they just overcorrect so bad, man. I understand why they feel like this, dog, because you looking at people. Howie Rosen has been here the entirety of the time, whether he was the GM or not. He's been here since 2000, so he's seen teams like the Dream Team or some of these top tier teams they try to put together. We got all the players in the world, but it just don't work. The general manager should get the credit because he built a great team, but the coaching didn't allow it to. So coaching matters. So the fact that they continue to be this successful, you can't take that away from Nick Sirianni. It's This
Like I
whole
said, I mean,
situation is such a strange thing, man.
yeah, like I said, it just comes down to what Jeff Lurie, what his philosophy, how he feels on it, right? Like,
Yeah,
does he feel like, I trust Howie to build me another Super Bowl roster, and
but you
I
gotta
can.
find the right coach.
That's true, and Jeff Lurie has shown the ability to do that, has he not? It's gonna be an interesting offseason,
I don't
man.
know, man. He's 2 for 4.
2 for 4.
Yeah, didn't he hire somebody before Andy?
Nah, Andy was his first
Okay,
hire.
so he's 2 for 3.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a 66%.
No,
No,
really, 3 for 4 because Doug won a Super Bowl.
Doug won a Super Bowl. Andy was a hit. Chip wasn't. I guess you can
Nick's
call
a hit.
Nick a hit. I guess
Nick's
you
a
can call.
hit.
Nick is so far in the middle though. We call Nick a hit, but a
Two
lot of
Super
people
Bowl trips
say
and
this
one win.
but a
He's
lot
a
of people
hit,
say
bro.
that because it's because of the GM. That's the whole conversation we just had. We like to think he's a hit because I mean he won. We seen the dream team. We seen them build these kind of teams and it didn't work. So clearly what he pushing is working. But ultimately it comes down to just truly how they feel about Nick Sirianni. And I mean, it's kind of probably the same argument and conversation that we try to fight for our life with on the timeline every week, every day, where people try to trash him. Like I seen shout out to Path. I don't want to trash you, Path. You my guy, dog. But that Chiefs fan, Path man, where he like the only two CEO coaches I respect were Tomlin and what's old boy named Lyons Campbell. And I'm
Campbell.
like, buddy, his PR is like through the roof. He just sat here and lost both of his coordinators, tried to take over and made it worse. But you sitting here like, I respect him. I respect. Get out of here, bro.
He hasn't
Clearly,
even
you need. He
he
just
hasn't
like
even.
Nick. You need the guys that make it work, bro. So let's stop giving him credit because he won bite kneecaps and he likable. Come
That's what I'm
on, dog.
saying. Like he hasn't even made a Super Bowl. Knicks made two and won one. But it's just again, it's the same thing with Jalen. All the narratives and agendas, and Nick's an idiot, and he doesn't know this, and he doesn't know that. That's why his PR is in the trash. That's why.
But this again, stuff like that conversation right there is why.
Exactly. This comment exactly here. Two trips to the Super Bowl, one win, playoffs every year for 5 years. Like it has to stand for something.
Exactly. Like, and this is the exact. Thank you for that post, Cozy, because that's exactly what I've been trying to explain for the last 2 years. Plus, you could sit here and say anything you want about Nick Sirianni, the head coach, and how you feel about it, but the resume speaks for itself. And that resume is very Andy Reid esque. I mean, Andy Reid was in the NFC Championship games yearly, but 2 Super Bowl trips in 5 years, 2 Super Bowl trips in 3 years. Like, it don't matter if you want to talk about coordinators or the team that was built around him. He's the head coach of this team. And we've seen head coaches do worse and better. So you just got to give credit where credit is due. Ultimately, it's just this entire team. And that's like I said a second ago. They were meant for each other, man. Nick and Jalen. They may be two different sides of a coin. You want to call one heads and one tails. You want to call one yin and one yang. I don't care. But they were meant for each other because you look at the criticism and how they get treated in the general public. It's like everything you do just doesn't matter because everything around you sets you up for success. And both of them matter to the success of the team. They both matter. You take away one or the other, and you see what this team look. We seen this, no disrespect to Tanner or any other quarterbacks we had play. You see what the team look like without him. Like the conversation of this Philadelphia Eagles team is such an enigma because from top to bottom, they are built how the owner wants them to be built.
Mm-hmm.
They are built off of individuals who believe strongly in themselves, no matter what the perception of the public says of them. They have proven track records of being really good, but also have situations of, well,
This was
you're,
really bad.
yeah, you're a merchant of this,
No matter where you
basically.
look, whether you look at Howie and how he was put in a freaking broom closet for a year and he drafted Jalen Rager over Justin Jefferson. That's still a thing. Like, but now he's one of the best if the best GM in the league. Like you said, you look at Sirianni, Jalen. So it's gonna be an interesting offseason. It's gonna be a very, very interesting offseason to see how Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman decide to handle all of this stuff. I
So I
think
guess
I think we
oh,
can
you
we can
finished
get
first.
into the we can get into the OC conversation, like really dive deep into it next pod. I feel like
Yeah. Go into some names if they haven't
yeah,
made a hire and things of that nature. I guess my question for you. I have spoken to a lot of people since the Eagles have lost this game, and there seems to be a true perception around the world at this point that this Super Bowl window, this championship window, this
it's
2029
close.
window that we discussed is, like you said, closed. A, do you believe it's closed? And B, do you believe the eulogy of the Philadelphia Eagles has been prematurely written? If so, why?
I do not think it's closed, and the eulogy of the Philadelphia Eagles has been prematurely written. I think when like you said, you look at the organization from top to bottom. You look at Jeffrey Lurie, how much he empowers Harry Roseman's ability as a GM to add talent to the roster. They see the deficiencies on the roster on the offensive side of the ball in terms of the offensive line and everything like that. You think they're not gonna attack them head first to fix it? You think they aren't going to hire a OC that can kind of mold this whole thing back together? That's going to get AJ Brown, make him happy, get Jalen back to where he's supposed to be as a quarterback and everything like that. The defense is where it needs to be. They got to pay some guys, but like people are acting like it's over. It is not over. It's not over at all.
Okay, so next question would be, how far do you think this team is away from another Super Bowl? I mean, we can
You
have
want
the
like a
detail.
timeline
No,
or
no, no, no. You ain't got to. I mean, if you want to give me a timeline, sure. But do you think they can win one next year? Are they a
no?
few years away? Blah, blah, blah. Like, what do you think? And we can get into the breakdown of the roster on a different pod. Hell, maybe even next pod. But based on what you think this team needs heading into the off season to get back to where they once were, how far do you think they are away from? Well, not how far, but you say the window isn't closed. How open is this window?
You want like an estimate in inches?
Yeah. Like if you open a window, you hide in the house. Some people open it halfway. Some people open it. If you open your window all the way when you cold, you're a maniac. I don't know if you live on the first floor or what, but you just opening window animals to come in. It's either halfway, 3/4 of the way, or closed. So
I think it's
basically
I
one,
think
two,
it's
or three.
I think it's halfway open. Like I said, when you look at the organization, you look at the quarterback, like they've routinely shown they are capable of, like we talked about, correcting their mistakes and repositioning themselves in spaces that is going to help them contend. Like it's
All right, let me know. That's a good way to put it. That's a good shout out to you again, Cozy. Are we closer to the 49ers or are we closer to the Packers? Meaning, how the 49ers, just like the Eagles, of the five last, what's that? Five, they've been in five of the last eight Super Bowls or something like that. Are we, as Jada like to put it, wild card, big time, wild card, big time, wild card, big time? Oh, should we be expected to be big time pretty soon? Or is this roster they
cooked.
got some work to do? I don't want to say cook because I mean again you said the window's open, but like that's why I
I
said
mean,
the
if you
Packers. That's why I say
we
49ers
can.
or Packers because the Packers always had a chance to win, but by the time you got to the playoffs, you knew that they weren't winning a championship ultimately because of the roster. But they had a chance.
I think it's like Cozy said in the comments here. The Niners are closer to us, right? Like I don't think it's as bad as people are making it out to be, right? Like, yes, the roster needs some work, specifically on the offensive line. You got to find Lane's replacement. You got to figure out what Tyler Steen is. You got to figure out what Landon Dickerson, what his health situation is. But you get the offensive line back fixed, I think you're right back in business. Now that could take a year. That could take after next year, but I don't think it's a situation where it's going to be like the Packers, where you're in the wild card or divisional round every year, and you're good enough to make the playoffs, but you're not good enough to really contend. I don't think it's a situation like that.
Okay. All right. So Cassandra's packing. What do you think is the most important necessity, of course, outside of finding a competent offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles this offseason?
Getting the offensive line fixed. Getting the offensive line fixed. Like I said, this is a team that the organization that builds through the trenches, right? Like, you know, they got to figure out what the succession plan with Lane is. Landon Dickerson, his
That's
health
near the top.
situation. Yeah, you said what?
I said that's near the top.
I mean, I'll put it all in one because it's just fixing the offensive line.
No, I get you. I
Like
get you.
we've seen,
Oh,
them be
okay. I get what you're
productive
saying.
when the O line is at or near the top of the league in terms of their play on the field. If they can
So
get the O line back fixed, things will be back right again.
if I had to say, it's a two-sided coin. They have to do one or the other. If they don't do what you said, assuming we can't use the same answer, you either got to draft cornerback two or find you a premier pass rusher. It's no in between. You got to have one or the other. We didn't have neither last year, and we happened to find players that were competent enough to fill the roles just good enough. But I'd like to think that goes to show you how talented this defense is. Where you watch this Eagles defense and you talk about them against the run and outside runs and things of that nature, they were still the number three defense in football. And you look at, I mean, hell, who can't look at that San Fran? I mean, not San Fran, that Houston defense and get jealous of what you see over there. Those 11 maniacs, where we're not too far away from that. You
Yeah.
just gotta kind of finish off. First and foremost, we need, like I said, a premier pass rusher. If you don't have a premier pass, we just need to decide whether we're gonna be built from the front or to the back or the back to the front. If you're Philadelphia this offseason.
And if I know Vic Fangio, they're gonna find a cornerback too. That's gonna be what the onus is.
I'm excited to see, man.
Yeah, because I mean, if you look at the pass rush, like it wasn't,
It
it
wasn't
wasn't.
good until they got Jalen Phillips, which is why I don't
Yeah,
understand the people saying Jalen Phillips wasn't that good when he got here.
yeah,
He essentially changed the trajectory of the pass rush. He wasn't that good, but the
yeah.
pass rush as a whole took a next step because he was the kind of guy they were missing.
It just wasn't elite. It just wasn't like it was last season.
Right.
It wasn't on that level. But like I said, man, this offseason is going to be extremely, extremely interesting. I think Josina Anderson, before we hopped on the pod, she tweeted about uh, Brian Dayball and Cliff Kingsbury being two guys that they're definitely going to look into. That league sources have connected
Yeah.
the open offensive coordinator role to. So by Thursday, we should have some more names. We're
Clarity.
really going to get into some guys at OC, kind of things that we'd like the next offensive coordinator to have in terms of qualities and different things like that. So,
It's okay,
um,
Cozy. If you enjoy NFL draft content, come tap in.
we
Because
got
you in
you.
the perfect world, I got you. In a perfect world, the Eagles might just get a King Mesidor somewhere in the third round. I think third round if they're lucky. And he's the future Brandon Graham, and we're okay.
That's been reported. The ball interviews Friday. That's like is that this is
Confirm.
bad podcasting? Yeah, is that
Um,
confirmed?
um, Give me 1 second. I can't confirm or deny that for you.
Oh, he said no is his source.
Oh,
Oh
okay.
well, we'll see if that's confirmed for Friday. But yeah, I think this is a good place to end it. Thank you to all 89 of you. One just dropped off from the 90, but all 89 of you who tapped into the stream. If you're listening after the stream, on whichever podcast streaming platform you're listening on, be sure to leave us a like and a review. Rate us 5 stars.
Next
And one
time you
more
see
thing,
us, we have Parthy with us.
yeah, one more thing. Shout out to producer T in the chat, bro. We got to get you back active with us, dog. We got to get you back active with us
Yeah,
if you're
yay.
still tapping in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yay.
But like I said, thank you all for listening. Go Birds.
You no bigger than that, bigger than that, bigger than that. Thank you all for listening all year. It's been
Yeah,
a long year.
yeah.
Long year. We appreciate all you guys for tapping in every single episode, through all the ups, through all the downs, through all the sunshines and rains and wubba lubba dub dubs, as we like to call them. We
With the
appreciate you,
loss with the loss on Sunday, like it kind of made me think. Like I wasn't as mad as I thought I'd be, but the human aspect of it, like we pour a lot of time into the Philadelphia Eagles, time and money. Like, and I thought back, to the beginning of the season, like we're all up in Philly. Even if you want to look at the Super Bowl parade, like what we've created, like a brotherhood, right? Like we got 90 people tapped into a podcast of
The
us on
last
Tuesday.
365
Yeah,
days plus have been phenomenal to us.
yeah. Like
You
it's
look at
it's
some of the guests we've had on the pod. Shout out to Rio. Shout out to Aaron. Of course, shout out to JP.
Sean Syed.
Like, brother, hell, we just had Crocky on last week.
Yeah.
Just we
How can we
have
forget it? Shil Kapadia.
the goat.
Yeah.
How can we forget the goat? But we it's been another phenomenal year in terms of the Philly Blitz and what we've been able to do. And we're excited to share that with you guys and excited to see what the future has in store for us, man. Shout out to our friends at 14th and Market for carrying us to this point, for serving us and providing us week one, putting us in a place where we can give y'all a great opening to the season. Sucks the season didn't end the way we wanted it to, but I mean, it's just part of the plan. Wild card, big time. Wild card, big time. Hopefully, back to the big time, you guys. Go Birds.
Go Birds.